First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not forgiving my uncle for telling me that I'm a product of an affair? I, 19 male, am a product of an affair. I just learned this story 2018 around Easter. My dad had an affair that resulted in him getting his mistress pregnant and having me. My mom relied on him financially and already had 3 kids, including a newborn by him, so she stayed. My dad started a co-parenting relationship and ended the affair with the other woman. When I was around 2, my biological mother ran off. We think to her home country, but we really don't know. I honestly couldn't care less and don't have any desire to find her. After my biological mom left, my mom was willing to take me into her house and raise me as her own son. I'm sure this must have been hard for her, as I have seen a picture of my bio mother, and I am a dead ringer for her, and even have the masculine version of her name. As I said, I didn't know this, and I only found out because I got into a public fight with my mom at our family's Easter dinner when I was 16. I couldn't tell you what it was about, but I do know the next day I got a call from my mom's brother who let me hear it, about how ungrateful I was being to the women who raised me after my real mom abandoned me. Of course, I was confused and went to my parents who told me everything. This news broke me for so long. I felt like a stranger in my house and like a monster to my mom. My older brothers both knew, but my older sister did not, and our entire extended family knew about me. I shouldn't have learned about it this way. This is why I have never forgiven my uncle for telling me in anger. Apparently, he didn't know that I didn't know, so almost everyone in our family except my siblings think I should forgive him. I saw him again last weekend, and I refused to accept his apology, which led to my cousins and aunt and dad pressuring me to just forgive him. I didn't, and still haven't. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I don't buy this not knowing. It sounds like this adult man was intentionally trying to inflict as much damage as he could on a 16-year-old kid. You're a teenager. Of course you fought with your mom. What teen doesn't? You get over it and move on. You don't call to curse them out and lay life-altering news on them out of anger. You're right. This isn't how you should have found out. Even if the uncle truly believed that he knew, and likely, it is still incredibly damaging to throw that in a kid's face. That's the same as telling an adopted kid that they have to spend every day being grateful that their parents rescued them. His comment was meant to make Opie feel less like a real kid, like he owes his parents for parenting, and that's wrong and undermines their family dynamic. Not the a-hole. Even if he didn't know you didn't know, he still has no good reason to hang that over your head. The uncle is a total a-hole. That was not his news to share with Opie. The purpose of revealing that information did not come from a place care, but rather maliciousness. The uncle is transferring his frustration with the father to Opie. There are 2 ways to read what your uncle did. 1, he knew you were unaware of your biological parentage and wanted to hurt you by revealing it in anger. 2, he genuinely thought you knew about your birth mother and thought it would hurt to remind you that you should be grateful because you have a mother that loves you despite you not being biologically hers. There is no scenario I can see where your uncle is not a raging a-hole. Not the a-hole. You should have been told in a kinder way by your parents. And I'm so sorry this is how you found out. I hope you are able to talk with your family honestly about how this is affecting you and that they don't push you to sweep this under the rug. If I may give you some advice, there is a huge difference between forgiving and forgetting. So while you may find yourself in the state of mind to forgive your uncle, it doesn't mean you are forgetting his cruelty. You don't need to set yourself in the position to be hurt again by this a-hole. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for disowning my biological father and calling him by his name? I was born as a bastard child when my biological parents were both 19 years old. I was told that since they lived in a highly Catholic country, my bio father tried to force my mother to get a termination to avoid getting shamed by the community. But she refused as abortion was illegal, expensive and just dangerous done illegally. Plus, it was against her own values, so she still had me. As a toddler, my mother and bio father lived together for a year before she moved out with me. He did not work, helped my mother with chores, saw other women, only spent his money on alcohol, and even forgot to feed me at times. Which made my grandparents and aunt furious, and told mother to live with them instead. She was fortunate that they were willing to forgive her and accept me despite their religion. My grandfather on my bio father's side would often give us extra rice, meat, milk and diapers because he felt guilty that his son didn't take care of me or mother. When I was 4 years old, my mother started to date a new guy and eventually they got married. He lived in another country, so she moved with me to his place. He adopted me. To me, he is my father. Even though we are not biologically related, he is still my dear father and no one can say otherwise. Fast forward to when I turned 14 and traveled to meet my relatives for the first time after moving away. Everyone was excited, and then I met him, my bio father, who I now called by his name, Jay. Wanted us to meet and talk alone, which I was shocked by because in all those years I've been away, he has never contacted me in any way until now. No good wishes or happy birthdays. I basically saw him as a stranger. We went behind the house and just sat there in silence. He was obviously drunk since he reeked of alcohol. He then started to apologize to me and told me that he loved me. I was kind of uncomfortable with the situation since I didn't know what to say because he was a stranger to me, but I figured he probably regretted his past actions. He repeated his apology some more while patting my back and then suddenly put his hand on my butt and thigh. I don't know if I overreacted, but I stood up and ran away from him and told my relatives that I did not want to see him again. I did not know if he groped me on purpose or not, so I did not tell my relatives, but I was still scared of him. Doubled with my knowledge of his past, as well as disappointed that he was drunk for the first time meeting me in over 12 years. I just feel uncomfortable to call him dad because I do not love him. He wasn't in mine or my mother's life, and the time he did not act like a father. Now he tries to contact me every few months with a happy birthday my baby girl or more apologies, but I do not want to see him. Not the a-hole. It takes more than genetics to be a father. He wasn't there to raise you, therefore he is not your father. After 14 years, to be drunk and try to violate you is just disgusting. Don't ever see him again. Where does he get off calling Opie by an endearing pet name like baby girl when he did nothing to deserve such honor? He is essentially a stranger. I would go ahead and block him from any social media platform. A family member should have supervised the meeting when Opie was 14, especially if the father was visibly drunk. I hope everyone knows that his lack of action, ignoring you for years, and his disgusting actions, unwanted touching, are the reasons Opie disowned their father. To me, he is my father. Even though we are not biologically related, he is still my dear father, and no one can say otherwise. A dad is what you said above, the person you call dad, not the person who calls himself dad. Not the a-hole. Being a family is a privilege, not a right. What on earth? OMG, so sorry this person is this way. I'm so glad you guys got away and found a good dad in life. This person who happens to be biologically your dad is not a good person. He lacks morals and is a predator. Sorry. Not the a-hole. He's the one who is less and whose life is sad. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling our son that if he drops out of school, he has 6 months to move out? This evening, my husband, 42 male, and I, 40 female, got into an argument with our 17-year-old son. He told us at dinner that he needs our signatures to drop out of school. We know that he has been struggling since remote learning started last year. We have worked closely with the school to develop an individualized education program, and he goes to therapy 3 times per week. His school has implemented everything that his therapist recommended, including reduced assignments, more time on tests, and frequent breaks during lectures. I have even cut my hours down to part-time at work, so that I can be home to help him when needed. He told us that if we won't sign the paperwork that as soon as he turns 18 in May, he will sign the forms himself and drop out. My husband asked what plans he had if he were to drop out, such as work, living situation, and transportation, and he said he was going to stay here so he wouldn't have to worry about any of that. We both told him that if he dropped out of school, that he would not be living here, that he would have 6 months in which he would need to find a job, a place to live, and his own transportation to get back and forth from work. We told him that if he is going to make the adult decision to discontinue his education, that he would need to be able to support himself, because we would not be doing that. My husband, a mason, knows several people who are looking for apprentices in HVAC and as an electrician, but our son says he doesn't want to do that kind of work. He says he wants to make his living as an influencer because he can't work for other people. We told our son that our decision stands, that at this time he has three choices: graduate and get a job/go to college, graduate and work a trade, or leave. Our son called us both stupid a-holes and told us we don't understand that he doesn't want to work like dad. Am I the a-hole for telling our son that if he drops out of school, he has 6 months to move out? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. It seems like you and your husband have been very diligent in working with his therapist at his school to get him the services he needs. I encourage you to call his therapist and let them know that he is talking about dropping out of school. If there is anything that can be done to prevent him from dropping out, that will be for his benefit. I get that he thinks his influencer lifestyle is glamorous, but it is not sustainable. And if he doesn't want to do college, the trades are awesome. They are hard work and the pay is garbage as an apprentice, but it will pay off. My husband is a master electrician and makes more than me with 2 college degrees. If your son does decide to drop out, 6 months is more than enough time to get his ducks in a row. Stand firm and do not back down. Agreed, stand firm. Natural consequences are the best life lessons, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. And if we wanted to work physically demanding jobs all the time, they wouldn't have to pay us. Oh, and rolling on the floor laughing my ass off. Making his living as an influencer? Lol 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 lol. Same, laughing my freaking ass off. No one is going to be influenced by a 17-year-old high school dropout. Not the a-hole. You are giving him options. This is where he will learn the truth about being an adult. This is an excellent point. OP, you did not just say, stay in school or I'm throwing you out. You listened to his concerns and gave him viable options. I've known a few fairly successful people who did not finish high school but still made good lives for themselves and raised a happy family. The options you gave are very reasonable. The last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for letting my stepson get evicted and become homeless because I refused to pay for his outstanding back rent? So, I have a stepson, 26 male, with my husband of 7 years. After college, he moved to New York City to work in marketing. He has lived in an apartment with 2 of his partners, paying around $1,200 a month. But starting in June/July, they have stopped paying all rent. They thought they could get away with it because of the eviction moratorium during the pandemic, even though he was still earning an income and one of his partners, lawyer, was a higher earner who could have easily afforded the rent each month. Nonetheless, he told us that they weren't paying rent because he was convinced the government would cancel rent before the end of the year. And surprisingly, their landlord has been going nuts and is now threatening to sue them for back rent and evict them starting next year. It's not looking like any rents will be cancelled, and stepson's high-earning partner also left them suddenly and is now unreachable. So now he is freaking out and wants us to cover the amount they owe in rent, about $6,000. I am fuming. They claim they've spent this money already and have nothing in savings. He's coming to us begging for money because he says he'll be evicted and homeless in the middle of winter otherwise. My husband has a soft spot and wants to loan this money, knowing we'll never get it back realistically. I'm less lenient and have been pushing back. However, stepson has gotten the sense that I'm the resistant one and has blown up at his dad, accusing him of putting his spouse over his children. I am stuck in the middle, and I'm wondering if it's easier to just give in than to keep fighting. Husband and I are both high earners and can afford this rent bailout, but I honestly am just sick of endorsing stepson's wasteful life decisions. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to pay for stepson's back rent, thus letting him get evicted and possibly sued starting next year? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. What a horrible, selfish group of individuals. Good for you for holding your ground on this. They deserve every second of stress this causes. Exactly. The 3 wise guys thought they would take advantage of the rent moratorium that was created for those folks that had lost their job or experienced reduced hours and/or wages, not for entitled brats who had the money to pay their rent but decided they wanted a free ride. I would not give him the money, as this might be a great lesson to learn for him. Maybe it might teach him to be thankful for what he has and not what he doesn't. I remember an old saying of my mama's. I cried because I had no shoes until I saw a man with no feet. No, not an a-hole. He had the money for the rent, and he decided to just not pay. What the hell did he imagine would happen? The consequences of not paying rent are not having a home. Bailing him out won't help. It's not like he got into trouble because he couldn't afford it, / lost his job, / had a big emergency thing to pay for, like hospital bills. He just decided not to pay. He is an a-hole. He had the money for the rent, and he decided to just not pay. It's worse than that. You could defend them not paying as just being delusional. But they also didn't pay, and then consumed that money on some kind of celebration of their delusion. Specifically, not paying for something means you should have that money sitting in a bank account. Not the a-hole. He did this to himself. They should have paid the rent since they were all working. It's not up to you or your spouse to fix this. You guys should let him deal with consequences, even if he becomes homeless. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you with the next one. Stay safe.